Hi, Miss Eglin. Today I'm going to be reading Girls, and this is from How Angel Peterson Got His Name by Gary Paulson. Skills in Action, reading model, short story. Read with a purpose. Read Girls to learn how the narrator, a 13-year-old boy, survives his first date. This story is told by a first-person narrator who refers to himself as I. Girls. When we were 11 and even 12, they were just like us, sort of. That is, we could be friends and do projects together in school, and some boys could even talk to them. Not me. I never could, and neither could Orvis. Alan seemed to have worked out a way to pretend they weren't even there, and Wayne swore that it didn't bother him at all to speak to girls. And then we became 13. Everything changed. Well, not everything. I still couldn't talk to them, lived in mortal terror of them, and Orvis was the same. But we talked about them all the time. How they looked, how they smiled, how they sounded, how they must think about life, about us. How Elaine was really cute, but Eileen had prettier hair. And Eileen seemed one day to actually look at me. Right at me, but we couldn't speak to them. Except that now it became very important that we be able to speak to them. Before it didn't seem to matter, and now it was somehow the only thing that did matter. I had this problem because Eileen actually had looked at me one day on the way out of school, or so I thought, and on top of it she had smiled. I was pretty sure at me as well, and I thought that maybe I was in love, and it was for real. And when I asked Orvis about it, he agreed that I might be in love for real, and suggested that I take Eileen to a movie. Which nearly stopped my heart cold. I couldn't talk to her. How could I ask her to go to a movie? Finally, it was Orvis who thought of the way. I would ask Wayne to ask Shirley Johnson to ask Claudia Erskine, who was a close friend of Eileen's, if Eileen might like to go to the movies with me the following Saturday afternoon. This torturous procedure was actually followed, and by the time I was told that indeed Eileen would like to see a movie the next Saturday, I was a nervous wreck and honestly hoped she wouldn't go. We met in front of the theater, as things were done then at our age. I couldn't even imagine going to her home and ringing the bell to pick her up and having her parents answer the door. If I couldn't really speak to girls, what would I do with the set of parents of the girl I was going to take to a movie? So we met at the theater at 1:30. I wore what I thought were my best clothes, a pullover sweater over a turtleneck with my feeble attempt at a flat top, bushwhacked so much that dropping an anvil on my head wouldn't have flattened it. I think now I must have looked something like a really uncomfortable, sweaty, walking, greasy top bottle brush. Have I mentioned that with my sweater and turtleneck, I had gone solely for fashion and ignored the fact that it was high summer, or that the theater was most decidedly not air-conditioned? But Eileen was such a nice person and pretended not to notice the sweat filling my shoes, so they sloshed when we walked, or how I dropped my handful of money all over the ground. I had brought all of my $7 in savings because I really didn't know how much it would cost, what with tickets and treats, and maybe she was a big eater. She also pretended not to notice when I asked her if she wanted popcorn. So I asked her again, louder, and then again, louder. All because I was blushing so hard my ears were ringing, and I wasn't sure if I was really making a sound or so when I screamed it out the third time and she jumped back. It more or less set the tone for the whole date. We went to the theater all right, and we sat next to each other, and she was kind enough to overlook the fact that I smelled like a dead buffalo, and that other than asking her 3 times if she wanted popcorn, I didn't say a word to her. Not a word. I couldn't. The movie was called The Thing, about a creature from another planet who crashes into the Earth in the Arctic and develops a thirst obsession for human and sled dog blood and isn't killed until they figure out that he's really a kind of walking, roaring, grunting plant. So they rig up some wire to cook him like a stewed carrot. All of this I learned the second time around when I went to the movie with Wayne, because sitting next to Eileen, pouring sweat, giving her endless boxes of dots and candy corn and popcorn, almost none of which she wanted, but accepted nicely and sat on the seat next to her, I didn't remember a single thing about the movie. Not a word, not a scene. All I could do was sit and think, I'm this close to a girl, right next to a girl, my arm almost touching her arm, a girl, right there, right there. The end of the excerpt of Girls by Gary Paulsen.